Hello everyone, welcome back. You're watching Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 164. I'm Enigmius and today we're continuing with the Copperhead build. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at what I've accomplished since the last episode. And I decided that I would start off with just kind of a look at the Copperhead with a couple of my more popular builds alongside, just for a sense of scale in the grand scheme of things. I've been pretty busy with things since the last episode. We had to add thrusters to the ship. That was the major external detail that I had to take care of since the last episode. And you can see we've got reverse thrusters along the front here. We've got lateral thrusters along the side. And then we've got all kinds of propulsion thrusters, main propulsion thrusters on the back end. And I'll tell you ahead of time, this is not enough. This is actually insufficient to get a ship of this size up to speed. So part of what I have to do before I can release the blueprints is add more. I guess there's no other way to put it. I mean, we can try and put a slightly more design-oriented spin on it, but it's just we need more. It's the summary. But this isn't actually where I've been spending most of my time. I did spend a little bit of time structurally kind of adding these sort of raised sections along the back, which I found it was a little bit tricky to get them to work alongside everything else that's going on, but once I got them done, they almost kind of add that feeling of like a spoiler on the back end of this thing without being a spoiler. So there was that kind of aesthetic that we gained from the whole thing. Primarily it was to gain more space to put thrusters. As it sits, the places where I can see immediately where I can put more thrusters there, we can put 3 more down here. If we really wanted to push it, we could put another one there. I'm not sure that we'll do that. We're using the jet thrusters, by the way. They're a little bit stronger than the regular medium thrusters that we would have for a hover vessel. We have, we could put 4 more down here and 4 more down there, and then of course whatever we do on one side, we can do on the other. We can put a strip down here. It looks like there's room for about 5, which this would be, I think this would fit with the aesthetic that we've got so far going on the back end, would be to add those. And of course this whole section on the back end, realistically we could just turn this into one gigantic bank of thrusters. Currently I did a little bit of testing, a little bit of motion testing, and we'll show you towards the end of the video exactly what it looks like when it's on the move with the current configuration, but it's only using 10 or 11% of the total power available with these thrusters if we're moving both forward and to the side. So we've got the main propulsion thrusters and a set of lateral thrusters firing, only goes up to 10 or 11%. That might leave you wondering just exactly what we've got going on inside for power generation. We're just going to scoot right through the wall here. This is where I've been spending most of my time since the last episode. Specifically creating space to put everything that we need, giving a little bit of thought to redundancy, a little bit of thought to compartmentalization of the various different containers and equipment that we would have, and also a little bit of thought to oxygen supply. Previously, we would have this area here where you would, actually let's get in there and take a look. This is where you enter the ship from if you're coming from the underside of the ship. It's the currently and probably will remain the only official entrance next to the ship. I say official because sometimes holes appear in ships for strange reasons. You enter through here, and then this would be all wide open, and then you would go through here to get to the aptly named forward cockpit. It's a little bit much to pressurize, I felt. Not necessarily difficult, not especially costly, I didn't think, but more than was necessary under the grand scheme of things. There are certain planets, of course, where there is no oxygen, so it makes sense that we would have at least some areas where you first get into the ship, things have gone horribly wrong, you run out of oxygen out in the field. The first place that you arrive into is a pressurized space with oxygen stations to either side. Very easy to see on account of the color that we've painted them. Made them very, very accessible so that you can correct the situation, get some oxygen back into your suit, and continue doing whatever it is that you needed to do. We've continued texturing and sort of finishing off this interior section. It was mostly done after the last episode. I've been messing around with these. These are the rails, the glass rails. You can also get them in sort of like the metallic rails with the vertical stiles. They're just so tiny. They're like foot rails. They're like rails for ankles, so that the ankles don't fall over. You get the idea. They're just absolutely tiny. But I felt that they fit there, so they go there with the cockpit. Still very simple and straightforward. But one of the things that I also considered as I was working my way through this is that we've got this forward section that's vulnerable because of the armor glass that we've used through a lot of it. I like the look of it. I like having it, but keeping in mind that it's not going to offer a lot of protection. It's not even so much people shooting through the glass and then shooting through the wall behind and then hitting the equipment behind. It's people shooting through the glass and killing you. There could be times when a prudent individual may decide that it just doesn't make sense to be sitting in that cockpit. So we've added another cockpit on the back here. This is a much more defended area, and it's a lot less likely that someone's going to get an easy pot shot and kind of ruin your day. So we built this. We've got more of these little rails. And again, even down on the floor, they do a better job of showing the scale of just how big they are. I find them fascinating for some strange reason. So again, trying not to put them in a place where it looks like they would be a tripping hazard, but at the same time recognizing that that's all they could ever possibly be, is a tripping hazard. We spent a little bit of time texturing the interior, and one of the things that I decided to go with, and I'm just discussing this because it's a relatively new option, is I went with the old texture that we had for, I think it was hardened. Was it hardened steel? No, it was just the basic steel, I think. Either way, there was this texture, and then we got the new texture, which is cleaner, shinier, and so it made sense to have this sort of scuffed up and dirty on the floor, and then clean on the walls. And then we also used the plain shiny texture, alternating between the two, just for the sake of a little bit of variation, going all the way through. And then we've got all of the lights, except for this one, of course, are a shade of blue. They're all the same color. High intensity, maximum intensity, I should say, minimum range. And that's how we get these really intense sort of glare effects coming off the surfaces, which I kind of like. It's definitely sort of a sci-fi feel. We've got the basic machines that are available to you for a hover vessel. We have a constructor. We have 2 fridges, another oxygen station, an armor station, and everything that's on one side is all mirrored on the other side. You can see all the machines are over there as well. We've got our oxygen tanks lined up in the back, just because I didn't feel like making another room just for them. We've got all of our basic storage containers surrounded in hardened steel. And then we've also got all of these rooms, wherever possible. We've got a window so that you can see into the room, but also we've got everything labeled with what it is. I spent quite a bit of time messing around with different blocks that we might be able to use. And in this case, we came up with the same blocks that we were using for the hull weave outside. The really narrow slope blocks and the wall blocks added onto the front and sometimes the side of these little rooms just gives them that little extra bit of structural texture. They've got kind of a soft curve to them now. And then when we take and we paint the edges a little bit just to accentuate what's going on, you can see we've got the edges all painted up shiny black. I found it really was something that I was happy with once I got it all done and was looking at it. It's just a very, very subtle effect with that little bit of a bowing out the front like that. The window I like. The label is never a bad idea. And then inside you can see we've got an abundance of ammunition containers, all easily accessible so that you can see what's going on, all sort of partitioned off from one another by hardened steel. And if this isn't enough to stop a chain reaction in this room, you've got one of these on the other side as well. So you've got redundant storage on both sides of the ship so that if something goes horribly wrong on one side, you're not left out in the cold, so to speak, as long as you remember to distribute your ammunition between the two rooms. We've got fuel storage. Same thing here. Whatever we've got here is also available on the other side. And then generators cranking away. This is probably why we have no problem with power generation, because we've got 6, 9, 15, and then another 15 on the other side is 30 generators. That's not bad. And again, the only reason why we have so many is just for the option of redundancy and making sure something happens, we're well covered. This is the basically the same setup we had in the last episode. We've got our core in here. Sometimes it's lit up, sometimes it's not, but you can see it's in there. And then we've basically got armored glass and hardened steel all around it, just to offer a little bit of protection in case someone gets inside and starts looking around to cause trouble. I actually kind of like the fact that this isn't especially visible from the outside. If you didn't know that this was the core, you wouldn't necessarily be able to recognize it right away if you're just kind of flipping around looking for something that's holding a core. Maybe if we changed the texture on this to blend in a little bit better, it wouldn't be quite so eye-catching, but for now I'm satisfied with it. So we built this glass sort of atrium, again, to make sure that we weren't having to pressurize the entire interior of the ship, because we don't have to, but it's just nice to have if you're coming in from an area that has no atmosphere. Buy you a little bit of time while you top things up and take care of business. So that's what I've been doing on the inside of the ship, and it's basically done. The interior I'm happy with. I have maybe some minor tweaking left to do before the blueprint can be made, as far as this goes, obviously, but that's not the only consideration that we have. We've got all of these thrusters, and there's two issues with the ship right now. One, it turns very slowly. And one of the things that I've discovered is that the longer you move your mouse in one direction, the faster it actually ends up turning. And the difficulty with that is that eventually you run out of space to move your mouse, and you have to pick it up and move it, and you lose that acceleration. Kinda not the best, I find. As far as a hover vessel of this nature goes, I don't really think we would absolutely need more maneuverability in terms of the turning radius, but I think it would be nice. I think it would be a much more interesting setup if we did things that way. The other issue that we have is this of acceleration and maximum speed. So you can see we start off moving. We're very slowly accelerating up to, we're just passing the 12 meters per second mark. Our power usage is 8% of maximum, and we've capped out at 12.4 meters per second. Oh, there we go, we're at 12.5. Not an especially fast ship, not necessarily built with the need to be fast. It's just, I've always found hover vessels are more fun when they're maneuverable, and when they move fast enough that you can launch them off mountains and stuff. That's always been sort of the way that I've looked at things. Additionally, I think I forgot to mention, I've added all of the guns, or most of the guns, I should say, because I couldn't find room for 2 of the 6 Gatling guns that we were allowed to have on the ship. We have everything else, though. We've got everything mounted, the plasma turrets, the artillery turret, the underside miniguns, and missile launchers. All of those are included on the ship. And the way that I've set things up with the Gatling guns is that they're more for terrain removal than they are for actually killing anything. They're basically... are we going to be able to... Oh, we're in the water. We didn't want to be in the water. We're underground. I don't think we're going to be... Yeah, we're not going to be able to see the Gatling guns from this angle. Basically, the Gatling guns are on the front of the legs, the forward legs, right down along the ground. So you could hit things on the ground, bad guys, if you wanted to, but the way that they're spaced would make it a little bit tricky. It's more if you find yourself in the middle of a forest and kind of stuck. Gatling guns, unless they've changed it, have always been a convenient way of dealing with that sort of scenario. So clearly I have a little bit more work left to do, primarily in the area of forward thrust, and I'm going see if I can get more maneuverability out of adding even more RCS units. But just between you and me, I think I've got about 200 RCS on the ship already. I think we're probably well into the range of diminishing returns, but under the circumstances, I think it's worthwhile experimenting just to be sure. It's not the kind of thing where I want to make the assumption and find out that, for example, maybe there are no diminishing returns on RCS units for hover vessels. Who knows? Not me, that's for sure. So the next episode will be the final tour and blueprint episode for this vessel. And I found that this is actually one of the best ways to get a really good feel for the way things on the ship change when you kind of spin around it and you have all of that crazy stuff going on with the walls and slopes and the hull weave and the shenanigans. So this may not be a functional ship. It may just be a ship that's kind of an example of how to do some things that are probably interesting in some way. I could see actually rebuilding this as a capital vessel. The thought just occurred to me. You get the idea. You know where we're going with this whole thing. So if you want to be notified about the next episode, the blueprint episode, and everything that we do after that, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on social media. Lately, I've been releasing sort of midway screenshots as we go through the build process. So people, if you're interested in the build, you can see that on Twitter. Leave your comments and feedback if you're so inclined. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.